Continuous improvement, whether it's the asset management landscape or it's even down into sections 9 and 10 of ISO, we want to be conducting structured management reviews of performance, risk and opportunities, performance of assets, performance of asset management, services, product delivery, and of course the asset management system. We want to be looking to ensure that there is still and remains alignment between asset management objectives and of course organisational strategy. Depending on your organisation, industry, context, etc., that may not move or separate over a given period of time, but in a more, say, tech-centric organisation, service delivery, that may change more frequently. We want to be looking at opportunities for innovation, efficiencies, and of course improvement. But to actually measure efficiency, you do need to be effective in the first place and be able to repeat something at least twice. You want to make sure any corrective and preventive actions are followed through. So not just doing the corrective, yep, we've fixed it, but what are we doing differently in the future? In ISO in particular, preventive action was taken out and now is assumed to be within corrective action. That created a little bit of confusion out there. But again, corrective action is fixing something. Preventive action is really, as the name suggests, it's not going to happen again. And then embedding a culture of continuous improvement across the entire organisation. Plan, do, check and act. And the checking and the acting really comes into play under continuous improvement. Continuous improvement can run the risk of just being a tick and flick exercise. Oh yeah, good idea. Yeah, we'll do that one day. But what we need to make sure is that when we are receiving feedback around where things might be improved, we need to make sure that there's leadership engagement. If the leaders or the senior leaders never attend one of the workshops or a meeting, whatever it might be, we're looking at the risk and opportunity register, for instance. Well, really, are people going to take it seriously over the longer term? So what we need to do is ensure that leaders actively participate. And even if they can't be there on the day, they either send a delegate or they follow up afterwards and say, good idea, or I just want to question that particular item. You want to sponsor improvements. And again, an improvement doesn't necessarily require capital funding. It may be just a shift in process change and a senior manager has endorsed it, supporting it and helping the people through. And of course, then allocating the right resources to do it. Because from a leadership point of view, it's one thing to empower a workforce, but it's another thing to support and enable them to achieve what you're setting out to do. A lesson learned is a lesson earned. That was told to me years ago by an old mentor. We run a real risk that if there is an improvement there or an opportunity, well, it might not ever be implemented if we don't assign someone to do it, give them the time to do it, and actually drive that responsibility and accountability. So following through on actions is key. So as simple as this suggests, assign who is accountable for it, track the progress, resource what's required to actually do it, and report on the tasks associated with that improvement or change, and report on it regularly. I'm sure we've all experienced what we often refer to as change fatigue. Staff feel overwhelmed. I feel overwhelmed. Constant changes, constant reviews, this moving piece, that moving piece. What I find with change fatigue is two things that can actually mitigate it. One is having clear messaging and communication of why changes are being done. If people feel like they are working in an ambiguous environment and don't understand why change is occurring, they'll make up their own mind and then fatigue does set in because they're antagonized. They don't know where we're going. The other thing is with change fatigue is remind people we're not asking to change you, we're asking to change the organization around you to set you up for success. So from a change fatigue in terms of capacity, prioritize the improvements. What's going to have the biggest bang for buck? Ask your staff what they believe in terms of how we should prioritize. Looking at quick wins or low-hanging fruit, as we say, but also balancing out workload. There's one thing to say to a busy person, oh, let's make this improvement. But if we don't respect the fact that they're already working 40, 50 hours a week, again, you've just made their life harder. Now, if we are looking at opportunities for improvement and we're doing it in isolation and we're not sharing them, chances are, one, we could repeat mistakes, or two, the rest of the organisation might not be aware of a lever for improvement. So we want to integrate that with organisational learning. Build that structured knowledge sharing and feedback loops into reviews. I've seen organisations do it very well and have that feedback loop. It isn't that hard to do, but you need to consciously remind ourselves, plan, do, check, and act. Staff and workers may see, oh, here's an idea for an improvement. Gee, it sounds like it's a reflection on my workability, my work ethic. We need to really steer away from that. And if we always gear continuous improvement back to outcomes, whether they're operational outcomes, asset management objectives, or even overarching strategy, we need to promote a positive culture. And improvement's about growth, not blame. It's about improving you, me, processes that we work in, service delivery. It's about product delivery. And overarching, it's looking at what we can do as opposed to not we can't do because of. We run a risk as well that when we're looking at opportunity, we can't break out of the corrective mindset, i.e., what can we do to prevent things occurring? And then the risk is if we're only fixing problems, we're only looking at things that are broken, we're really highlighting and perpetuating the fact that we're not moving forward. We need to move into that innovation mindset. The innovation and adaptability being, again, an asset management outcome from ISO 55000. We could encourage experimentation. We might pilot a new process, a new product, new ways of working. But as we do, we should celebrate innovation, even if we don't achieve the intended result first or second time around. So 3 sections that jump out for me in terms of continuous improvement. 9.3, management review. But looking at management review, not just following the standard itself, but what is important to us that we should be placed under review. Don't limit it just to the standard. 10.1, continual improvement, which of course is what this whole module is about. And of course, non-conformity and corrective action. As I made mention before, there was a subtlety made in the change of the high-level structure in ISO to the harmonized structure, and that is preventive action moves in under corrective action. And to some extent, that's why 10.3 was created, which is predictive action. So in summary, management review and continual improvement ensure that asset management stays and remains relevant to stakeholders, it's effective, and always getting better over time. And only you in your organization can define what does good look like. And again, building that back into your SMART objectives, your SMART asset management objectives is one way to do that. But as I said before, continuous improvement, plan, do, check, and act. And in terms of the improvement, either do it, don't do it, or defer it being done, but always go back to the originator of the idea and let them know exactly the why, what, and if you're going to do it, when.